Sickos Club.
Sickos Club.
Hey, come here. You like pro wrestling? We got a little something for you. Two fans, 3,000 miles away. We each been watching for more than 30 years. Celebrate the art form, the action, the homoeroticism. We ain't rating matches. We ain't analyzing stories. We ain't experts. We just sit down, shut up, and mark out! Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another edition of Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out. I'm Blade Daly, and as always, I'm hosting this pro wrestling podcast about pro wrestling with some guest hosts. And I'm joined by Pippin. Pippin, you have been on the hard way many times. You've beaten me at Jeopardy. The only person who has ever defeated me at Pro Wrestling Jeopardy. And even though I got my win back because, 50-50 booking, brother.
There you go.
Yeah. Even though I got my win back, I still had to, you still did beat me. You have that distinction. Professor Degree says he beat me at Jeopardy, but that's literally only because I gambled all my money away before he gambled all of his money away, and he considers that a victory. No, that is not a victory. How are you, Pippin?
Doing good. Glad to be here on the first official episode of Sit Down other than Sit Down the Hard Way. Right.
You've joined us for Sit Down the Hard Way, but this time the beautiful people get to see your beautiful face, and they get to hear your dulcet tones on the mothership. That's right. And for the first time ever, two firsts. One first time Innitbab has ever been on the show. Big time listener, supporter of the show, good friend. We have been mutuals for a long time, baby. We have known each other for quite some time. Big booster of the podcast when it started. Very encouraging. Really appreciate it. But Innitbab, you are also the first person we have ever had live from the UK. Welcome.
Well, it's good to be on here at last. I think we've chatted in the past about me appearing, and here I am. It's gone 11 o'clock in the UK.
Yes.
Been a long day, but I would not miss it for the world, to be fair. It's let's chat some wrestling.
Yeah, we're going to chat the fucking wrestling, and the chat is going to chat some wrestling with us. Let's do it. So we got lots of feedback from the last episode. I'm not sure if everybody listening right now has been able to listen to that one, but we got lots of feedback from that last episode. Most of it very good, but there were some YouTube dorks who thought I was a pansy for criticizing Ice. Well, pansy it is, bitch. There will be more of that in this episode, so strap in. And if you're gonna melt underneath the sun, then prepare for the fire. Also, to those of you who are already with us, you don't need to be reminded, but we do want to remind the listeners that we tape live on Fridays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you join us. You have a totally different experience than the final edit. It's a lot of fun. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple or wherever it is you listen to podcasts. Remember to like the video and leave 5-star reviews. It's a big fucking no. But gents, what was really big fucking yesterday? Seismic. AEW was like the most viral thing on the internet. It felt like it was insane.
Broke all the containment.
It was all about not just me saying fuck Ice, but fuck Ice. It was about a lot of people saying fuck Ice. They were saying fuck Ice on Dynamite just before the match with Brody King and MJF. Innitbab, what were you thinking when that was happening?
Firstly, fuck Ice from the UK. Absolutely. Just the reactions from both wrestlers, to be fair. I mean, Brody King, he was pumped up, you could tell. I loved also MJF's sort of fourth wall look to the camera as like, I'm the bad guy, but, fuck Ice, basically, without saying it. You could just tell. Insane reaction. People can say what they want about AEW, but you don't get better reactions for that like the anti-Ice sort of movement, for sure.
Yeah, so I didn't watch Dynamite live, so I actually saw stuff popping up in my feeds before I actually got to watch the episode. But that whole moment of like, everybody in the audience, and then you can see the referee catch on to it, and they stop, they hold back from the bell for a little bit. You can see the camera zoom out. You can hear commentary go quiet. Like everybody realized what was going on and let the moment breathe instead of trying to like push past it or like, oh no, we can't let that happen. They understood what was happening and they let it happen.
Yes. Well, and I thought that was really fascinating because they have censored far less than that on Max, certainly. Holy shit chants have been censored. It was like, I don't know, like they had a punch card and they're like, well, we censored, we get one freebie and we're going to save it for the right time. But yeah, it was amazing. You hear Tony Schiavone kind of talking in the middle and then he just stops. And Excalibur and he lay out. Brody, they show Brody while they're chanting fuck ice and Brody's just ready. Max has that face. That's going to be a GIF or a meme forever. It entered all-time lexicon shit. There were people sharing it all over the place. And, when I was watching it live, it was like, yeah, that was cool. That was really cool. All right, let's get to this match. And so, they have a match that, a bit of one. It was, the bell rings and they're getting ready to lock up and Hangman Page's music hits. And MJF's like, oh, no. We're not doing this shit. And so he goes out, to yell at Hangman and Brody just chokes his ass. Dangling, doing the dangling feet thing. It was really funny to see the WWE people online say that Brody copied whoever did that to Dragon Lee this week. Whatever, who cares? It's not true. We all know that. And then Brody brings him in and just hits that fucking insane gonzo bomb thing. That's just like, oh my God, he's dead. He's fucking dead. And pins MJF, just pins him right there. Just squashed the world champion like it was nothing. And so that match is official for Grand Slam.
I've been very nervous about another MJF title run, but so far, like it has been really good. He hasn't resorted to any of his cheap tricks and stuff that I don't really feel belongs in AEW. And I'm loving the tradition now that they've set up where he gets interrupted within the first 2-3 minutes of talking, and then Brody just squashing him I never saw that coming. It's definitely been a very different run for MJF, and it's been exciting to see. And I don't think that Brody's going to beat him on Grand Slam, but there's enough doubt that it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. And so that makes the match official for Grand Slam.
Yeah, same feelings. I'd love to see Brody King get the belt, the AEW Men's World Championship. However, if he doesn't, just the fact that he, pinned the champ so quick on Wednesday's Dynamite I was a bit shocked, to be honest, how quick the match went in general. But I think just the chance at the start, the match, how it went so quick, it was what was needed, to be fair. And it really is a great build-up for Grand Slam as well. It's intriguing. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think, they announced so many things for Grand Slam during the show that, you're really going to get Takeshita and Moxley as well. You're going to get Brody and MJF, and a bunch of other stuff got announced. It's like, holy shit, you guys are going to do this in one show? Like, how is that even possible? So it's a pay-per-view level show. Unhinged Snowman Tony Khan is my favorite snowman in the entire world. Sorry, Frosty, you lost, buddy. You lost. So that's what happened, right? Like, I watched it live, thought it was cool, talking with the homies in the chat, talking with my special someone about it afterwards. And, we thought it was cool, but like, we didn't like linger on it. It was just a cool moment. I wake up the next day, I check threads and I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? because all the WWE trolls were trying to hijack wrestling threads. They're trying to hijack the AEW Dynamite feed. And, like, this ain't shit. This ain't nothing. I'm like, what? What is not nothing? Like, what? And then I start seeing these people from CNN and all these other people sharing it. And I'm like, oh, shit. This is like picking up big time. Like big time. And, it was a great Dynamite anyway. But this just took it to a whole new level. It felt like like I said, the entire internet was just talking about this. And so that was insane. So, it was influencers, it was journalists, it was fans. The journalists clearly aren't aware that AEW is not WWE, which shows how poisoned the well is when it comes to the perception of pro wrestling in America, especially. They're, kind of like, wow, they've even lost the wrestling fans. We're gonna dive into that a little more because I think it's very unfair to everybody watching, listening. The story was picked up by NBC News. And basically anyone looking for a click. So lots of liberal influencers picked it up too. Brody King and MJF both got a ton of press. My question to both of you, Brody King's almost becoming like a folk hero of sorts. Do you think there's any chance this changes the plan for him going forward?
Tony Khan is good at a sort of swerve when he wants to. No pun intended. He's good at doing things on the fly. I mean, people always sort of say there must be other bookers and there must be like writers and everything, but he knows what he's doing. If he does a last minute switch and Brody gets the belt for at least, a few weeks, a month, whatever, bring it on. I think it would really help with the political landscape, especially in the US as well, to be honest. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, yeah, I'd love to see it. I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility, especially in AEW. Tony Khan is proven many times that he's not afraid to make last minute switch ups. I mean, I even think when Ciampa won the TNT belt, I have a feeling that was not the plan going in, but the reaction that he got. I didn't even know who that dude was until that music hit. I was there live in Austin, at that right. Dynamite, and I had no idea who he was. But the minute that music hit, like, that dude earned so many aura points, like. And yeah, so I think it's a definite possibility, and I would love to see it.
I think the whole world is looking at Brody King right now, and it's interesting because it's not like the whole world of wrestling fans are looking at Brody King. Like, he broke containment, last night, and there was a ton of people saying, that this guy, get behind this guy, like, do it. And Innitbab, I'm inclined to agree. I think, I don't think Brody needs to win the title. I'm not sure that he will win the title. But if they just said fuck it and went for it,
I'm all in. Go.
When's he going to be hotter than this? I mean, when's this guy going to be hotter than this right now? And it kind of, like I said, it kind of led to this media reaction that I found just annoying more than anything, kind of boring. As good as AEW has been, and let's be clear, it's the best it's ever been, the insane degree of mega-coded moments and outright embrace of the Trump administration by WWE has definitely actually helped AEW draw a very clear line between themselves and the Fed, and it's turning out to be a gift that Tony Khan probably never saw coming and probably never expected. There's now a moral reason to not watch WWE that's very evident even for the people who kind of refuse to see it with Saudi Arabia or refuse to see it with these other actions that these people have taken, the disgusting shit with Vince. Now there's another reason entirely, and it doesn't help that their product apparently sucks. I don't watch it. I don't know, but I just see lots of people complaining. The
most I see WWE clips is when I watch Botchamania.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's funny with Botchamania how it used to be very much targeted at AEW and the pendulum has swung ridiculously. But then if you're just going to, put out god-awful product, which it is now. I mean, it has been... I stopped watching it properly myself in like 2019. especially when Goldberg bloody squashed Bray Wyatt, which was stupid, in my opinion. I think a lot of people's opinions as well. It's been downhill since then for me. And then this current government in the US, there's their hands in pockets, Linda McMahon, you name it, they're there, aren't they? So, yeah, just poor products and poor choices, I think, politically, massively.
Yeah, well, and it's weird because, we kind of already know what their politics are before any of this started, but that debut episode on Netflix is going to probably go down as one of the worst rollouts of a brand in history of brands, like not of wrestling, like of anything, because they so fucked up understanding their fan base and went so hard to kind of try and run off the people that aren't like-minded. Having Hogan come out and get booed to shit, like.
Yeah, they really didn't.
They had like such potential, like they had to reach an audience that like could never engaged with wrestling before, like be on Netflix and then just completely shit the bed.
I mean, they kind of couldn't have done it any worse if they tried. Last episode, I was talking about TNA debuting on AMC and how so many people said it's a fucking disaster. I'm like, I don't know if it's actually as damaging for TNA as that Netflix episode was for WWE, because they absolutely fucked up. And then they kept dialing down. The creative apparently isn't good. And, people are calling for Levesque's head. And I'm like, no, he ain't going anywhere, you guys. You got your new Vince McMahon is what you got, is the guy who's not going to go anywhere that you can't stand, who also, unlike Vince, puts his face all over everything and is on the show as much as anyone is. We see these reactions where, as good as the Dynamite was, there were a lot of journos that were talking about how, they've lost the wrestling crowd. Oh my God. How could they do that? And it's, I wanted to take a moment and say that, wrestling's an interesting fandom, right? Because there are some really mouth breather, lowest common denominator types in the fandom. And what I've noticed, though, is with the rise of nerd culture and the preponderance of nerds that are just openly nerds now, and that's like a point of pride, right? Wrestling has become a lot more accepted to just say you like it, because a lot of people realize they weren't liking it all by themselves in secret, Like when I started watching wrestling in the early 90s, you didn't brag about that shit, okay? Like you didn't brag about that shit. You did not. So we don't celebrate these idiots in the fan base, the kind of traditional redneck moron wrestling fan that people think everybody is. My experience in the wrestling community is wrestling fans are some of the most intelligent. Some of them are incredibly well-educated people. It's an incredibly diverse audience. And then particularly in the AEW crowd, you find very left-leaning people in that audience I will say one of the big reasons when AEW was announced, look, Kenny Omega was my favorite wrestler. The Young Bucks were incredibly interesting to me. Hangman Page, all of that. That was all great. But I didn't have to have this subconscious hate towards myself for watching it. There was that was a huge relief to me. It's like, I don't have to have this moral conundrum over what I'm doing anymore.
I've been AEW since day one. As soon as they announced it, I was like, yep, I'm on board. Purely because like I said, 2019 was the sort of year I gave up on the Fed. A couple of years before then was when I was sort of dipping my toes into sort of Ring of Honor, a bit of New Japan. I was massive on the Bucks. So as soon as I saw them, obviously Cody at the time, not so much now. But massive,
right.
For me as well, and politically leaning as well. It's so much more progressive than a lot of other wrestling companies out there. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of fandoms, have that, dark side that nobody wants to talk about or acknowledge. And I think in wrestling, it became the overall perception of like, that's who everybody who liked watching wrestling was, just because that's who like WWE catered to for largely. They weren't catering to their women fans. They weren't catering to they're minority or people of color fans. Like that's not who they were interested in.
No, they were not.
But they were there. They've always been there. I don't remember exactly when I stopped watching WWE. The last big event I remember was Undertaker's streak being broken by fucking Brock Lesnar. But so it was a while, and I just stopped watching altogether because I heard about stuff like New Japan, but it just was never accessible. So when AEW, I heard the rumblings about AEW, I was just so excited to be able to engage with one of my favorite hobbies again. And from the beginning, they have never been shy to embrace the wider fan base. There's still, of course, improvements to be made, I think, especially around the time that women get on TV, but overall, like there were heads and shoulders above just about anybody else.
Well, and I think AEW's had to grow. This is their 7th year now. Like, what the hell is happening? Like, how did this happen? How's 7 years gone by already? Like 2020 feels like 17 lifetimes ago, and it also feels like
yesterday.
Yesterday. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we have this very unfair perception of wrestling fans that unfortunately Blue Sky, when there's a big wrestling event that happens, you can just tell these like far left people on Blue Sky, it just eats at them that AEW is like the other big thing on Blue Sky. Like it really, really upsets them. And so they'll get into your comments and be like, that fake garbage. This is why Trump got elected. This is why whatever. I'm like, actually, you condescending to people like this didn't help things at all. You looking like a total asshole who belittles people for having interests that you don't understand is kind of part of the problem too, pal. And you're just proving my point here. But yeah, I've had people creep in and go, it's fake. And I think we've reached the point culturally where it's like, that movies not real.
Exactly.
like Die Hard, your favorite Christmas movie that you got to post about every fucking year. That is not a documentary. It did not happen. Every television show you've ever liked, not real. Reality TV, not real. I say from the mountaintop.
Reminds me of what if mixed books? Wrestling is the real world is faker than wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. I truly don't understand people's preoccupation with that. It's like a 1970s way of looking at the whole situation, and people just haven't updated their stereotypes. Innitbab, have you found that as well?
It's part of the reason I'm not the biggest fan of Blue Sky, to be honest. That it puts me off with, you go to the trending section, you go to AEW Dynamite, you go to the sort of AEW profile pages, and the comments from certain people on there is hilarious. Like, oh my God, it's wrestling's for the MAGA crowd. And why is this trending? We should be talking about what's going on. It's like, let people have fun. Let people, watch what they want to watch, do what they want to do. And like you said, Blade, as well, films aren't real. Wrestling's not real. Just enjoy it. And if you don't want to enjoy it, let people just do it.
No, that's one of the biggest things that gets to me is there's more important things to be talking about. And yeah, of course there is. But like resistance and all that stuff, it takes energy. And you need to be able to enjoy the things that you enjoy in order to keep fighting that fight. Like, joy is resistance.
Yes. Well, and okay, there we go. I mean, let's just talk about that for a minute, Pippin, because I think something that's really echoed through me lately is like, look, I'm going to speak to the atrocity. I'm going to acknowledge that it's happening and say it's wrong, right? But I refuse to submit to hatred and apathy and all of that bullshit. Like, I will not do it. You don't get to take that from me. Like, you may get to threaten me with the idea of taking a lot of shit away from me. But like, when I get a chance to just talk about wrestling, I'm just going to talk about wrestling and enjoy it. And your fucking insane batshit stop watching the news vibe, Like, you need to go lay down, touch some grass, do a line of coke, go fucking on a roller coaster. I don't know. Do something. Fucking chill the fuck out. Okay? Because you're really, really fucking weird.
You can't live there 24/7. It will kill you.
Yeah. I have a relative that I love dearly, and we agree on politics, but he's just so into it. And like, he texts me. I dread getting texts from him a lot of the time because I'm like, oh God, it's somebody talking about something Trump might do. It's like, look what he actually did today. That was bad. Do we have to theoretically posit what he might do as well? My dog's heard this speech enough. She's like, yeah, I'm out of here. Antoine has a little message there for Pippin. Said, joy is resistance. They want us to be apathetic and eat each other alive and depress the country while making it tougher to get mental wealth help. A smile is a revolution. Well said.
Ditto, yeah.
Skewer Universe did bring up that WWE had a stranglehold on the business for so long that nothing was a credible alternative within the U.S., and I think that's where that perception that people have of wrestling fans is even deeper baked into the cake, because they don't even know that there's a giant national, worldwide, global promotion that is not associated with WWE. They don't even know that, and that's where you see how dangerous monopolies really are.
Beyond, even AEW, like they don't know that exists, and they definitely don't know stuff like CMLL and New Japan and everything else. Like, wrestling is not WWE. It never has been.
Right. And it's just, I think, unfortunate that you see so many people still kind of steeped in that thought process of, they think they know. They go, oh, that thing Hulk Hogan did or whatever. And it's like, no, it's a lot different than that. But, the other thing too is, so like, okay, there's that. But let's talk about the actual cultural relevance of AEW and pro wrestling. We don't live in a monoculture anymore, right? The only way to have everybody kind of think that WWE is wrestling is they were a monopoly for so long, right? They were the only wrestling. So people weren't confused about what that was. And this was a very intentional effort to replace the word wrestling with WWE, right? It's brilliant branding if that's your kind of thing, but it has created a lot of confusion among other people. But this is where, in my opinion, AEW being this, they're not making as much money as WWE. They're not a publicly traded company that's sitting on a bunch of stocks that all this shit that these fans throw at fans of AEW or other promotions, New Japan or whatever. You'll never be as big as WWE. It's like, that's kind of the fucking point.
Good. I want to be the opposite.
They are the counterculture. You know what I mean? They are able to be, they remind me so much. Like, if Paul Heyman had a huge fucking budget in the 90s, it reminds me of ECW in a lot of ways, except ECW, you don't have to hate yourself for liking. Lots of problematic shit in ECW. I'm going back doing some rewatches right now. Like, oh boy.
It's not East well then, though.
No, I don't want AEW to be as big as WWE. They don't have shareholders, a board, that they have to answer to. They can kind of be, the running gun, outlaw mud show that they want to be. They don't have to. They don't have all these other people that they have to answer to. They could be a wrestling show.
Absolutely. Ryan Woodward with a genuine question. 2 very genuine questions. Do you think they are finally over the Cena era, or will he come back again? I think absolutely not. The way he was shown the door, no, for sure. That is definitely over. Pippin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't see him going back. I don't think he needs to. Like, he's got enough other shit in his life going on. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. He doesn't need to kill himself to make money anymore. Like, his body's already taken all those miles on. He can go. He already has a burgeoning acting career that's doing very well. So, the other question that Ryan asked, that honestly, very valid question. Do you like gravy? Innitbab, why don't you answer for us? Is, like in the US, when we say gravy, that generally means like some kind of brownish thing that goes on potatoes.
Same UK.
Is that the same thing in the UK?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
So
I
in
like
the
gravy.
UK, we have like Sunday roasts and that sort of thing, and we pour gravy all over the potatoes, the veg, and all that stuff. So very valid question, and both sides of the Atlantic. Yeah,
same thing. Pippin, you a gravy guy?
Unless it's white gravy, sausage gravy.
Yeah, sausage gravy can be a little touch and go. But I do enjoy it. I do enjoy even the sausage gravy. Just depends on how it's made. But Blurry Line has a great comparison here. How often do you hear, "Oh, I don't listen to country, it's dumb, racist, redneck crap," when that's like what's had a stranglehold on the mainstream for a very long time, but isn't what country is about? Tyler Childers or Sturgill Simpson is occupying that AEW role in country music. And I completely agree. Country music has always been more than singing about your beer or whatever. That stereotype is funny to say to people, but it's not true. Willie Nelson wasn't singing about that shit. Waylon Jennings wasn't singing about that shit. Hank Williams Sr. wasn't singing about that shit. That's some of the saddest music ever made. You're like, it's a wonder he lived as long as he did, quite honestly.
Yeah, country is never that's what hit the mainstream for the longest time, but that's not what country it ever has been. Like Johnny Cash was not any of that. Dude singing from prisons.
Right, from Folsom or whatever. Yeah. And maybe his most famous lyric is, "I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die." I don't think that's about beer. I don't think it was over a beer, is what I'm saying. I don't think it was over a beer. I think he just wanted to see a man die. Bo with a hot take in the chat. Oh my God. Sausage gravy is superior. Oh, we're getting into some shit now. Pippin, I'm going to ask you to try and use some restraint with the audience here. We're trying to be professionals. We're trying to keep things kosher. Wow. Skewer Universe asks a great question, which is baby gravy, which I assume is gravy made of children. I'm curious. You two have children, so I can see why you're hesitant to answer.
No comment.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm on the record as curious. Okay. Let's move on. Yeah. Let's move on. You know what? We're going to hit the music, then we're going to move on. So let's run through some quick hits. We've really spent a lot of time on the culture and the counterculture of wrestling and what that means, and how being the little guy is actually kind of cool, and doesn't actually mean that you're like, who cares about your stock price anyway? Actual wrestling happened in AEW as well this week, and it was very good. And first thing we got to talk about, I was very excited for this show because I knew we were going to get Kenny Omega and Andrade El Idolo. Let me ask you two and the chat, did anybody have Andrade winning this match?
No. Not even for a second.
I thought they'll book him strong. He'll come close, but no fucking way. Andrade is looking great in the ring. Okay. Like that spinning elbow thing he does, where he sometimes he tries to kick somebody and they block it and then he hits it, or like how they figure out how he's going to do this is a little different almost every time. It looks deadly. I mean, like Jericho's fucking, this little spinning elbow thing looks just cute by comparison, Bo had faith. Bo saying, I had faith. All right. Very well. But Bo's the only one, apparently. So this looked like Kenny's match to lose. A Kenny versus MJF rematch from that collision match they had years ago. I'm excited about that. But Andrade beat Swerve the week before, and there had been a little bit of tension in the ring when Swerve and Hangman and Kenny were all in the ring together. Swerve was kind of leering at Kenny. especially when Kenny got a little too close to Hangman.
Someone's jealous.
He said, "That's my boyfriend."
There's a little tension. Heated rivalry, anyone? But yes, it was insane. They go back and forth, and Swerve, who got screwed by Andrade last week, ran out and tried to keep Andrade from screwing Kenny. Except he distracted the ref. Andrade literally did the exact same thing he did to Swerve to Kenny because of Swerve. And then he hits the DM. It's over. Kenny gets pinned. Holy shit.
I'm quite happy with the role that Andrade's on, to be honest. He's been through some fun with the Fed, hasn't he? With the whole contract situation. He had his little return for that night, went back to nowhere, did some independent dates and stuff. He's come back to AEW, and Tony Khan obviously trusts him. And I think he's repaying it, to be fair, in the ring. His little moments outside the ring with the ladies, the selfies he's doing as well. He's obviously, he's a chick magnet, isn't he, as well? Great looking bloke, all the hair and stuff. He's got the look, does it, everything in the ring as well. Fantastic. I've always rated him, to be fair. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. But against Kenny, didn't expect him to win. So, yeah, makes it a lot more interesting.
Pip, did you get the results spoiled for you before you watched the match?
No, I did not. I was lucky enough to be able to watch that without knowing what was going to happen. I never quite got, like, Andrade never really clicked for me before this most recent run. Like, I never quite got it, but I am 100% dialed in on this go around. Like, he looks, like, physically, he looks better than I think he ever has, and I don't know what has happened, like, in his like personality in between now, but like he draws you in now. Like, he's got whatever that it factor is. He found it.
He looks happy. I think that's one thing. He looks happy. He's shredded as fuck. Dude he got hotter. I mean, let's just be real.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Dude got hotter. Those blonde, the super long hair, like when Don Callis is like, he looks like he should be on the cover of a romance novel. It's like, yeah,
he's right.
That's true.
Yes,
he does. Like, when everybody has, some kind of like visual fantasy about strapping Latino man, they're pretty much thinking of Andrade. And so there's that. And I think knowing that he just, I don't know, he seemed really in his head the first time he was in AEW. I was disappointed with the way he was used because I thought he was capable of so much more, but he is a very polarizing guy. There were a lot of people who said, somebody is literally texting me that I know saying Kenny is such a babe. Okay. So we're clearly not giving it up for Kenneth Jerome Omega enough, but we will. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. It's coming. So Andrade's just never been pushed like this before. But man, he beat Swerve last week, and then he beat Kenny this week. Swerve last week, Kenny this week. Somebody is texting me that they feel like they're betraying Kenny by how much they're thirsting after Andrade. Devil Dinosaur says, imagine your father is Ric Flair and your bro-in-law was Conrad Thompson. I'm good. I don't need, no, that's all right. That's all right. Yeah, I'm good. I was a big fan of Andrade's after seeing that match with Johnny Gargano, because I don't know if people remember, he showed up in NXT like a decade ago and he tried to do this thing with his suspenders and his hat.
Yeah.
The crowd was just like, and they tried to make him a baby face and the crowd was like, fuck this guy. And it wasn't until Zelina Vega, and he was kind of getting pushed down the card too. And it seemed like a Hail Mary that they put him with Zelina Vega, and then that took off. Then he very shockingly wins the NXT title from Drew McIntyre. And then he has that match with Gargano in Philly, and everybody sees what Andrade can really do and what he's about. And this version of this guy is better than he's ever been. And he doesn't seem like he's in his head at all. He seems like he's having fun. He seems like he's loving it in AEW. He can't go back to WWE now. Like, he stopped showing up for work. He's like, this is bullshit, and stop showing up. Like, he's not going back. So Tony doesn't have that tension in the back of his mind anymore. You know, him and Charlotte are done, you know, and he feels like he's comfortable owning it and just owning who he is. And I think it's really reflected in his work.
The bit with him going into the crowd and getting numbers and selfies has been one of my favorite things.
See, it's like I can't tell if it's planted or they probably are planted, I guess. But it's a funny situation because everybody knows he's divorced from Charlotte Flair. That's been a while now, hasn't it? A few years.
Yep.
Like you said, Pippin and Blade as well. He feels more free. Like the chains have been released from the Fed side of things, from the marriage woes, obviously, as well. All round phenomenal. I'm glad he's being pushed how he should have been pushed a couple of years ago as well.
So that begs the question. What are our projections for Andrade in 2026? I think he's going to be a champion. Do I think he's going to be the world champion? I'm really not sure. I'm not sure I can go there yet with this. International champion? I could see it. You know, there's one of the top tier singles titles I think Andrade will win this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think he'd be good for the national championship. I think he'd be good for the continental championship. Beating the crap out of Mox would be a lot of fun to watch.
I think they had one match before he left, and I would love to see them have another one now. Kind of where both are at on the card, where Mox is like not in the main event, but he's still high up, and Andrade is like motoring his way up through the main event. So we're going to get Andrade versus Hangman Page in Australia. And the winner of that match challenges MJF at Revolution. I don't think Andrade is going to win because Andrade versus MJF just doesn't make sense to me.
No.
On a pay-per-view.
No.
There's not enough story behind that yet. There just isn't. But I'm very, very interested to see what they do with Andrade going forward because the crowd's responding to this guy. And you know, this other thing that he's doing with the stripper routine that he's doing on Collision.
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus, dude. Like, you got, like, not even like I'm upset about it. I'm just like, come on, man. Like, it's already hard enough out here for a pimp. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Come on, Andrade. So Swerve tried to help, but ended up costing Kenny the match. And then, so Andrade beats Kenny. Then Kenny and Swerve get into it big time. To the point where they're being pulled apart. Holy shit.
Very excited to see where that storyline is going, and Hangman having to choose in between his his best friend and his friend, quotation marks.
Yeah, it's like a choice of old friendship / we're friends again versus the new alliance, the sort of we've got to fight against the enemy alliance. So it's interesting, isn't it? How that's going to go.
Yeah, and it's still set up for Hangman to be kind of the main character of that story, where it's like how he handles this. Is it going to be different than he's done in the past? Is it going to be something, or is he going to fall into the same old trap? You know, and that's interesting. That's interesting. So we got that, and then Kenny and Swerve. I want to see this heat up more. We don't need anybody to turn heel, but you did notice Prince Nana had a towel that said the embassy on it. Did you? Very interesting. Haven't really thought much about the embassy in a while. I think this is a Revolution match we're looking at, folks. And I think we're going to get a lot of build to it. Maybe it continues in Australia. You know, they're not going to wrestle each other, but they might have another encounter. I would love to see them kicking each other's ass every week leading up to this match, just brutalizing each other. And then they have just, like, we all know Swerve's a sicko, but Kenny is a fucking sicko too. Like, he will do some crazy shit. So Kenny's looking like Kenny. I'm happy to see it. The Mega Bad also beat the Babes of Wrath in an eliminator match, which I thought was great because I love Penelope and Megan. They were my initial pick of the team I wanted to see win the titles first. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy that the Babes of Wrath did, but I could see Megabad taking those titles.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. I think, with Penelope having been on the injured list for a while, that and right at the start of that tag team tournament, that might have changed some of those plans. But I could definitely see, Megabad taking those championships, and it's always fun to have heel champions. So,
yeah, no, it's very true. And Skewer Universe does bring up a good point that Andrade probably has a career as an exotic dancer after his career as a wrestler. I think that's true. But yeah, Megabad looking great. Penelope Ford just came back and she's looking great. So hasn't missed a beat.
Something with that too, like Megan Bain now is actually picking up her skills on the mic too, which is I think awesome to see.
Yep. Yeah, she basically didn't speak for like the better part of a year, and it was felt like towards the end of last year she started talking a little bit, and she's talking more and more. And Megan Bain, you can give that woman the world anytime you want because she's absolutely believable. She's making Camille look like Timu Megan Bain, unfortunately, for Camille anyway. We also had a very interesting moment on Dynamite where Kris Statlander, in quite an attire, looked fantastic, but also challenged Thekla again and said she's going to announce the stipulation. They're wrestling next week on Dynamite. Very interesting. I think these two are great rivals. But she said, the Sickos know that I am, the Sickos know that I love doing the crazy stuff. And you're going to need to sit down, shut up, and listen to me. And I was like, what the hell just happened? What was that? I was asking myself, it probably wasn't, but I in my head, it was, it was a nice thing to believe. And I for just a second there, I thought we were going to get a real deal live shout out on Dynamite from the women's world champion. She said, sit down, shut up. And I was like, yeah, say it. I was like the Jack Nicholson gif. I'm like, yeah. So yes, I definitely did. But anyway, so yeah, Statlander and Thekla's kind of mini rivalry, at least what it is so far, is going to continue. I got to say, I think, I said this last week, Thekla is ready for whatever they give her at this point. I really can't imagine her not being the champion sometime this year. I mean, she seems so ready for it. Stat could be champion longer and I wouldn't complain. Tekla's not going to lose anything by losing now, but she's ready to win this title at any time. Do you guys agree, Pippin?
Yeah, no, I think I wouldn't have been surprised if Thekla had won the match, 2 weeks ago here in Austin. She had walked out the champion that night. I wouldn't have been surprised. It didn't happen. I feel like this is probably going to end up with being, the rubber match or, the conclusion to the trilogy at Revolution. I think we're probably going to see Thekla lose again, with probably because of whatever stipulation that Statlander comes up with.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the third match at Revolution might even end up being, something even crazier, like a cage match.
Right. Well, there you go. Maybe they do carry this over to the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'm in agreement, to be fair. I'd love to see Thekla get the belt. Her heel work and mic skills, just the whole package is fantastic, in my opinion. I only came across her within the last year or so. I didn't really know her from her Stardom days and that sort of thing. But catching up with her in AEW, she's got everything. Probably not their match coming up, but like Pippin said, Revolution, that'll be good to see, maybe get the belt then. Hopefully. I'm hoping she does very soon.
And I think the thing is, we can't put too much into any one title reign, right? Like, there is going to be more. Like, if Stat loses soon, she's going to get that belt back, and we all know it. Like, it's just going to be, I think Mercedes is going to be in the mix for that when she comes back. So it's like, who do you want to see her wrestle? She's wrestled Statlander 3 other times. So, and Stat finally has overcome that. So I'm not sure you need to be in a rush back to that match, but yeah, it's been good. I think Stat's had a good reign so far. If it ends soon, that's okay. She's going to get it back.
I think some Skewered Universe says up there too that this rivalry with Thekla is elevating Stat. Like I have been a Stat fan forever. Like I was so happy to see her get the title, but her after she stopped doing the Galaxy's best wrestler or whatever, it took her a while to find her character again, and I think this rivalry with Thekla is bringing it out of her.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Thekla is kind of the perfect rival for her because she's evil and unrepentantly evil. And Stat is a do-gooder at the end of the day. That's just her character. And so she's going to need somebody to be evil enough to really be that shadow on the wall that Stat's chasing down, So I think that's going to be good stuff. That's going to be real good stuff. So we got that. And then the War Dogs are being called the War Dogs on Dynamite. And we have Clark Connors and Gabe Kidd being identified as New Japan wrestlers. They're being called the War Dogs. The War Dogs aren't even the War Dogs anymore in New Japan, right? And so they just jumped Darby and kidnapped him. It was really funny. Somebody pointed out that Shivani's tone when he's like, and Darby's, they took him somewhere. And it's like, Darby, look, like, we're just like, Darby gets kidnapped a lot. Okay. It just happens. Like, it's whatever, like he'll be fine. We know he's going to live. But basically Gabe is still pissed that Darby kind of stole him and tortured him by dragging him behind a truck. So they do the same thing to Darby. I gotta say, I've been a little worried about how Clark Connors was going to come across on the mic because I'm not a huge fan of his mic work in New Japan. However, even what is it, Wheelson, Tireson? What is the name of his tire from New Japan? He even had that with him. He threw it at Darby during this segment. It was a good segment, and I think for me personally, I kind of notice that Gabe Kidd's mixing it up a little bit. He's not quite as abrasive in AEW as he is in New Japan. And I think that's a needed adjustment and shows what a smart guy he really is, because I think he honestly kind of triggers people. That New Japan persona is like, we've all known somebody who's just like mentally ill or like a terrible person and we don't want to be around them. And Gabe Kidd gives that off with his New Japan character, maybe too much. And so it's nice to have him ease that off a little bit. Ease that off. How did you guys feel about it? Pippin?
Yeah, I don't think I knew who Clark Connors was before these segments and matches, so I was a little confused. But I like seeing him with Gabe Kidd. I like that Darby has somebody to focus on now besides the Death Riders, because I think that was kind of getting a little stale. So, and I really liked the moment in the booth where they had forced them to show the footage of them dragging Darby behind the truck.
Yeah, I thought it was shot really well. I thought it looked, it was very intriguing, and it was, AEW doesn't do a lot of like out of the ring, away from the building kind of stuff. But when they do a really good job. Hangman burning Swerve's house down, for instance. Like they do a good job when they do it, and I think that makes it mean even more. Innitbab, how do you feel about it?
I've got to vouch for Gabe Kidd, fellow Brit. To be fair, he's more down south than sort of London, Essex area. But yeah, very gritty, yes. Very, like you said, when AEW do that sort of thing with the Hangman Swerve burning the house down. Darby being Darby and getting dragged behind a truck. Yeah, just great, fantastic. It's just perfect. That's what I like to see, but not too much of it. We don't want too much of that sort of thing all the time. So AEW is meant to be, the in-ring,
right.
But yeah, every now and then it's great to have that. Gabe Kidd's very good at that sort of raw, little bit sort of unhinged, but like you said, Blade, as well, we don't want to see too much about the sort of mentally unstable side of things as well. So I think it's just right. Yeah,
it's the right balance right now. Like, I've found him very compelling, especially just since he's been back in AEW. And when he specifically said, I'm not here on Death Rider business, they're calling him the War Dogs. The War Dogs don't exist in New Japan anymore. What the hell is happening? It's very interesting, is it not?
Is
Fuck Your Mama 2 times said Clark Connors was excellent on Collision with his match with Darby. Very true. That was a fucking awesome match. Clark, I like the 100 proof thing. I like what he's doing with that. I've seen Clark come along long ways since the first match of his that I saw, which was live at a Defy show in like 2017. He was good back then. We all thought he was so much better than most of the other wrestlers, but he has come so far. And I'm really coming around and starting to believe Clark could do this, So it's cool to see the War Dogs be these two dudes. Let's see if it gets bigger, because I did see that there's a rumor that AEW is interested in David Finlay, of all people. Not sure I'm super excited. The rumor for the last couple of years has been that he's Fed bound. So we'll see what materializes. I'm not, pushing too hard one way or the other. But if WWE got him, it'd be like, oh no. Just don't make him the leader of the War Dogs in AEW. If you do bring him in, just don't, maybe have Gabe turn on him or something. Because Gabe and Clark are kind of, and like Drilla, in my opinion, are like the most interesting people in War Dogs. So you already got 2 of them, But yeah, maybe double contract for Gabe Kidd. I don't know. I don't think Tony would. I think he would recognize the position that New Japan's in with Gabe, where they put a lot of work into him and a lot of push into him. So hopefully they won't pull up stakes and just have him in AEW full time for New Japan, especially. So we're gonna talk about one more thing, which is just last week I built up the entrance of Tommaso Ciampa, but I didn't talk about the outcome. His first match in AEW. Tommaso Ciampa's 40 years old. He's had neck problems. He's not a young man. He's been very beat up in his time. Smaller guy. I didn't know what to expect. And this match fucked. Mark Briscoe versus Tommaso Ciampa was fucking awesome. Tommaso Ciampa wins the TNT title in his first match. Innitbab, were you shocked?
Yes and no. I thought, to be honest, it made sense to just strap him up straight away. He's got so much to prove, stepping out of the Fed boundary. He's obviously been frustrated there. That's pretty obvious. If he can be anything like the sort of NXT Black and Gold days, like the Gargano rivalry, that sort of time, but now putting his sort of neck problems behind him. Also, bold community strong as well. I've got to vouch for him. So, yeah, he's, like you said, a smaller guy, but he's in such chiseled shape as well. And even though he's 40, he looks a bit older than 40 as well. Weird. It's strange, but he's great. I think it's the right fit, to be honest. And also, I did see a comment somewhere earlier today that he had a bit of an obsession, I think, in the NXT days with the NXT belt, calling it Goldie. And there was something he said about Sylvie. There was a post on Instagram or something. So let's see where we go.
Yeah, it was a nice touch. And Pip, what do you think?
Yeah, like you said, I had not heard of Ciampa. I heard like 1 or 2 people talk about that he was leaving WWE, but that was really all I knew about him before he showed up that night on Dynamite. And I he's a good. I'm excited to see his career. But I think he owes not a small amount of his current hype to Mikey Ruckus and that amazing track that he wrote for him for his entrance.
That was stuck in my head for days.
Yeah, I saw him talking about it, that he had never been able to create like a song with somebody before, and what a collaboration it was, and between the two of them, that Ciampa was like, well, I've always wanted something like this, and Mikey just made it for him, and that song, yes, that entrance is legit. That's a big deal.
My wife's not a wrestling fan. She's heard the song played on my Spotify playlist, going through like wrestling songs and stuff, and that's on there now, thankfully. But she was humming it like that. So doesn't matter who it is, it's catchy. It catches straight away.
Pippin, you have any more to add to that?
Just like I'm excited to see where this keeps going. I'm sad a little bit that Briscoe doesn't have a championship anymore. I don't think he necessarily needs it. It was cool to see him with it, and to see our redneck Chaos Gremlin on TV every week. But
he might be great.
But I am excited to see too that it sounds like Ciampa's going to keep up the open challenge, which is my favorite thing with the TNT belt. So.
Mm-hmm. I think it should just be like, that is the nature of that belt. It's defended every week, and if you're the champ, it's open challenge. You don't get to decide if you're doing open challenges or not. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel about it. Maybe that's too limiting for them. I don't know. But yeah, it's great stuff. And Ciampa's defending, I believe, against Roddy Strong and
two people. It's Roddy
Claudia.
Strong and somebody else. Yeah, Claudia. Yeah.
That's gonna hit.
Yeah. Blurry Line says it's not a great comparison, but I do mean it positively. Ciampa has Benoit vibes in how he's a smaller guy who's absolutely ripped and attacks wrestling with inhuman intensity. Yeah. I mean, you kind of don't notice that he's smaller because he's so, beast-like. So he's your new TNT champion. I'm excited to see where this goes from here. But we're going to hit the music. When we come back, we're going to wrap up talking a little bit about the current state of New Japan and where we think things might be going. As promised, we are going to be talking about the current state of New Japan. And we're doing it because less than a month ago, or just about a month ago, New Japan drew almost 50,000 people to the Tokyo Dome for Tanahashi's retirement. It was the first time they have ever sold out the Tokyo Dome. And that was Tanahashi's dream. This past week, it came out that they are parting ways with Evil, who last year also was rumored to be leaving. And it's believed that he is talking with WWE because his spouse, Io Sky, whatever, works for WWE. And then it was announced, and this was a lot more shocking to me, is that Hiromu Takahashi is also leaving New Japan. And that really stopped me because it's like, what is going on? Like, what is happening right now in New Japan? So first things first, the yen is worth nothing right now. The yen is not valuable currency. Okay. So it's, assumed that New Japan's struggling a little bit. However, Stardom is doing very well. And they don't have a mass exodus. They're owned by the same parent company. So why have they have literally now lost their entire core of wrestlers from their golden age, from their, I don't know what you'd call the last 15 years of New Japan, but minus like Shingo Takagi and a few other Ishii and a few other people, they don't have any veterans. Like, it's pretty much entirely in the heavyweight division, at least. It's I can think of Goto, Zack Sabre Jr. Who else? I mean, everybody else is kind of new, So why, AEW's taken the fall for this for a long time, right? Where it's like, well, AEW's not honoring the deal between, the partnership or whatever. And my whole thing is like, well, these people would have left one way or the other, right? But now Evil's leaving to go to WWE. So like, you can't blame AEW for all of this, It's a bigger problem. It's an existential problem. And it was very interesting to me that Tetsuya Naito came out and said, we need to figure out why everybody's leaving. As, he's a guy who left as well. And that's interesting because it's like, if he doesn't know, or is he being diplomatic, there's something systemic in New Japan that's not working right now. And it's causing a lot of people to leave. And, Gato is going to have to push this young core. Like, he literally doesn't have anybody else to push unless he wants to just default back to Zach or to Goto. Who else is there? Pippin, what are your thoughts on the state of New Japan when you consistently see new people leaving?
I'm not as dialed into New Japan as I think a lot of the other people, especially in our group, are. I kind of hear it through the grapevine and everybody else, but even it feels like, even from what I know, it feels like they are on a downward turn right now, and they need to find a face of the company to rally behind.
Yeah, and I mean, they do have Yota Tsuji, who's the champion right now, and that's great. But they also have other young people that they can get behind, like Oiwa or I'm spacing. There's Risuke. Who's the other guy? It'll come back to me. Anyway, Innitbab, how are you feeling about New Japan at the moment?
It's not my expertise, to be fair. I haven't watched New Japan properly in a long time. But again, through the grapevine, like Pippin said as well, it seems like when the sort of domino effect went when Kenny left for good, when he started in AEW, obviously Takahashi, retirement as well. A lot of there's not, from the outset, it doesn't look like there's big names for that sort of heavyweight belt, the IWGP, especially compared to going back to like 10 years ago from my sort of what I've seen of it as well. So yeah, I'd be a bit worried if I was a New Japan fan, to be honest, especially if you lose the likes of, is it Evil? He was part of a group there as well. If he's going to go to WWE, I don't know,
House of Torture.
I don't know if some people are that bothered by him. He's a bit of a sort of Marmite character, isn't he? A bit good, bad. Yeah, people aren't too sure, but yeah, I'd be worried.
He's deeply annoying to a lot of people, including me. He was his gimmick was very annoying. The House of Torture was very annoying, and some people love him. I wasn't one of them. Antoine also says AEW doesn't get off the hook. It's still a company. It's partly them, but the catalyst is not. I read all the crap TJP said was happening behind the scenes. It made sense. They play with contracts too much. Yeah, well, I think, Antoine, New Japan, and it's not like they were doing it on purpose. It just benefited them. Benefited from WWE being a monopoly out here. Let's just face it. WWE would cap their roster, and they didn't sign literally everyone. So, TNA was dog shit. ROH couldn't pay much. So if you really wanted to build up a resume and get interest in yourself, you went to New Japan. That's why Kenny's over there. That's why so many people were over there. The Bucks were over there. With AEW now, the pay scale is so different. What I heard they were talking about with Hobbs, what they offered him was apparently more. It would have been more in 2019 than anybody but Jericho was offered, is what Will Hobbs was offered by AEW to stay. And he left. And that's how much the pay scale has changed. So, New Japan doesn't pay like that. They never have paid like that. But I think with some of these guys like Okada or Evil or, the native talent, you can't bank on just loyalty to New Japan forever. You just can't. And, Nakamura was a pioneer in that sense. You've got a bigger problem that you got to solve what talents do you truly invest in? And once you do, go all the fucking way with them. They gave Sonata this one title run that was years overdue, by the way. They gave Evil one title run that lasted a couple months and then he never sniffed it again, And so, it's been very half-hearted the way that they pushed a lot of these guys and continually gone back to the same main eventers over and over and over again. And now literally all of them are gone. All of them are gone. I mean, even fucking Evil's gone. And he's not in the same class as a Tanahashi or a Okada. So New Japan, AEW, yes, they're of course they've signed some of the talent, but at the end of the day, like, you can use that talent still once in a while in New Japan if your partner signs them. It's a totally different thing when it's, and I just don't think you can ask wrestlers to be loyal to New Japan if they're not being offered the same kind of money and having to work a long way from home, So, and I think it says a lot that the Japanese talent is willing to go so far to try something else. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I think it opens up an opportunity that's been sorely needed. Push that young core. Push Oiwa. Push Iwamura. Push Yota Tsuji. Make Yota Tsuji your guy. Just run with him. He's the man. Go with it. Make Zack Sabre. Have Zack Sabre put him over. Have Goto put him over. Have everybody put him over. That's about all they can do at this point. I don't think Noah is offering Hiromu Takahashi way better money. I don't think that's the case. So we'll see what happens next. But New Japan, yeah, it's going to be I think it's going to take some time to really rebuild where they're at.
My sort of take on that being really in the sort of NJPW bubble, let's say, but definitely focus on the youngsters in the dojos. I know that's a big thing over there in Tokyo. Definitely build from the bottom and got to get some stars risen, haven't they? Really, it's like you said, they've lost so many big names over the years. So wait and see, hopefully, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and the chat has some ideas. Skewered Universe podcast said push Toru Yano. He's been right there all this time. The guy who could turn it all around. Blurry Line said, I think in a New Japan butterfly effect sense, them choosing to see Okada as a bitter vet who is meant to feud with young lions is like their version of Jim Herd telling Ric Flair to cut his hair. Interesting. I think that is interesting because Okada was definitely bordering on heelishness. Justin points out that Zack Sabre Jr. was highly active in DDT last year. And yes, and ELP was also in Southeast Asia a lot. In the Philippines, with Zach doing other things. So yeah, it's very interesting. And then Antoine brings up a great point, which I think will happen, is make Ren Narita wrestle. Because he was one of the guys in House of Torture that's always just doing this stupid bullshit. Show is another guy that just totally, his talents are wasted. And he could be a main eventer for the juniors. If not, muscle up and go to the heavyweights. These are immensely talented guys. And I think one thing I've seen from Sho in his time in the House of Torture, at least, is he does have charisma. I think it's freed him up to be a little more boisterous and a little more out there. So it maybe has accomplished something good. But House of Torture's got to go. I don't think they're going to save the company, certainly. And they've got to mix things up. Bottom line. Okay. To my guest, Pippin and Innitbab, it's been so good to have you with us. To everyone else, until next time, I'm Blade Daly.
I'm Pippin.
Innitbab.
Pro wrestling forever.
Sickos.
Sickos Club.